All right, this has been bugging me since Saturday, so I'm going to share it with you guys and see if it bugs anybody else. Hey, maybe it's just me. I don't know. Maybe this is how normal life is in the United States at this point, but it's really bothering me at a level I can't really explain to you, so I want to see if it bugs anybody else. Friday night, Trump came into town. He came into Minneapolis here in Minnesota. He had a private fundraiser dinner, and a bunch of Trump protesters. I guess that's what they're calling them, but really, I really don't want to call them that. These are Hillary supporters. That's what should be pointed out. These are people that are voting for Hillary Clinton. They showed up. I don't see a lot of Trump supporters showing up at Hillary fundraisers, but I see a lot of Hillary supporters showing up at Trump fundraisers and assaulting people. And that's what happened here in Minneapolis. Minnesotans aren't used to this, let me tell you. And these Hillary supporters show up, and they were smacking people around, spitting on them, threatening them. I mean, it bothered me on a level I can't explain to you, if this is what it's really come to. Because I don't know what I would have done if I were there. Even if it had not been done to me, some of this stuff was being done to, like, senior citizens. I mean, it's bothering me on a level I can't explain to you. But I also want to point out how the press is handling this, how biased the press is. You know, I look at all forms of news all the time. I get a lot of news off Drudge, but I do look at the BBC, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, you name it, because if it's a real story, I kind of want to see how they're reporting it. And sometimes it's even fun to see how biased they've become. But I didn't see this story anywhere. Like, the media is totally ignoring this. And that really bothers me too. The only thing I've seen really is local coverage. And even on that level, it's ridiculous. I want to show you first, I'm going to put up a clip here from a local news source. Watch this.
Tonight, Donald Trump stepped foot in Minnesota for the first time since announcing his campaign for presidency. The Republican nominee was at the Minneapolis Convention Center, where protesters have been all night. Earlier, they stopped traffic on First Avenue South and East 15th Street. Later, people could be seen trying to stop the convention center when the event was over. Trump's visit to Minnesota is not a public rally, but rather a private fundraiser. It's being co-hosted by a couple of states' media moguls, Stanley Hubbard and Jerry Pappenfuss.
Now, see, the way they put it, it's like, hey, nobody got hurt. You know, a bunch of welfare babies or hippies screaming and yelling. You know, young people got to voice their opinion. You know how it goes. It's political season. Nobody got hurt, right? I mean, that's the way they kind of presented it. Now, watch this next clip. These guys, they're a little more forthcoming with the actual facts, but they didn't go all the way either.
Breaking news in downtown Minneapolis tonight. Donald Trump protesters turn his first Twin Cities campaign stop into a night of violence. Good evening. Things are finally calming down in downtown Minneapolis at this hour.
But about an hour ago, protesters were spitting on Trump supporters, chasing them to their cars, and spray painting obscenities on the convention center walls. KARE 11's Lauren Lemanchek is live in Minneapolis with the latest on a tense, sometimes violent evening. Lauren?
Well, tense is right, Randy. Yeah, things here really got ugly as this event was letting out. Now, throughout the night, there were protesters here chanting, even confronting Donald Trump protesters as they went in. But as the night ended and people left, it was actually a fairly small group, maybe 24 people, who turned this event into something far more extreme. Protesters tried to storm the doors of the convention center, police holding them back. They spray painted the walls, they threw things and threatened people who had attended the event. Then they burned an American flag while shouting obscenities. Many were wearing black masks. It seemed like an entirely different group of people than those who started the protest, and it was a sharp turn for a protest that began with speakers and dancers. In fact, at the beginning, there was just a small group who was talking mostly about Trump's stance on immigration. As the event went on, they started confronting Trump supporters who entered the event. Many said they were there to stand up for immigrants and accused Trump of inciting hate.
Donald Trump is not popular in Minnesota, and we want to keep it that way.
Whoa, 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 really? I know a lot of people that like Trump in Minnesota. Does this guy speak for everyone?
We feel like as Muslims, we need to come and represent because obviously he's against Muslims being in this country.
No, he's against Muslims slaughtering people in this country. You have to go back to your country to do that.
Now, this was a fundraiser. Donald Trump supporters paying between $1,000 and $100,000 to be here. They were yelled at heading into the event, but they said they were excited to see their candidate in Minnesota for the first time. On the way out, a group had to be led out with a police escort.
These people are totally the opposite of what Trump says. We're not haters, we're lovers, we're Christians.
Now, this did spill out into the streets. The protesters walked around this area, around the convention center. There were reports of people jumping on cars, banging on vehicles, possibly Trump's motorcade as it left. Tonight, though, we don't have any update from Minneapolis police. However, I did not personally witness any events. And when the police came in, people did eventually leave here about a half hour ago. Live in Minneapolis tonight, I'm Lauren Lemanchek, KARE 11 News.
Okay, they showed a little more, I'll give them that, but it's really nothing compared to what really happened down there. I'm going to show you a clip I got off of YouTube. It's all over the internet. And there's more footage to this. And I'm not a journalist. I have to go out and find this because the press is not reporting this kind of stuff. Check this out. Every time I watch that clip, I am infuriated. I don't think I should watch anymore. I can't believe that happened down there. And these are people just going to a private fundraising party, and they're assaulted on the way out of it. Physically assaulted. There were cell phones stolen. They were spit on, pushed. They had bullhorns screaming in people's ears. I'm going to tell you guys, I know some of you don't know me. I'm going to tell you, things would have turned out a lot different had I been down there. If anybody would have laid their hands on me or my family. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. Sooner or later, these guys are going to run into the wrong people. It's only a matter of time. And they have no one to blame but themselves. No one to blame. I mean, maybe it's got to come to that. And there are people in Minnesota, I've got friends, conservative friends, that are totally unaware of this, that this happened down here. That's how poor the media is covering this. And I know it's happening all over the United States. Let me leave you with one more clip where a local channel actually, I think they got it pretty right. They presented the story as it is. So I'm going to give credit where it's due. Watch this one.
It's something we've all watched in other cities, but this time it was happening in Minneapolis. As Donald Trump held a private fundraiser inside the Minneapolis Convention Center, protesters made their voices heard outside. At one point, a Trump shirt was burned, our cameras capturing moments of tension on both sides. But it's what happened when people began to leave the dinner that has some Trump supporters calling for change.
This is me standing behind Mr. Barry just after he got assaulted.
Kathleen Bryan, seen here in white, says as she and others left the convention center, protesters became physical.
That's not a safe situation for us. And I think we deserve to be able to exercise our First Amendment rights without being in fear of being beaten and harassed like that.
Minneapolis police have so far made no arrests in connection with anything that happened inside or outside the convention center. According to police, 3 reports have been filed, 2 with victims alleging robbery, and another alleging damage was done to the inside of the convention center. All 3 remain under investigation.
We were literally ambushed. We walked out the doors, and all of these things happened.
Alex and Jeremy also attended the fundraiser and wonder if better planning could have prevented the alleged physical confrontations that followed.
Why wouldn't you be prepared for when those people are leaving?
Safety for everyone involved is one of the lingering questions left by Friday's event. Trump has said he hopes to return to Minnesota before the election. And if he does, many wonder if scenes like this will follow close behind. And some who attended the event told Fox 9 police seemed to back down from intervening in these confrontations. We even had a number of people tell us police told them they were not supposed to intervene. We asked Minneapolis police about that today, and they told us no such order was given. Back to you.
And that's where the story takes a really weird twist, is that the police at the event let the protesters, or I should say Hillary supporters, so close to the building, and they actually let the harassment happen. They stood down. There were many witnesses to this. Almost, I don't know how far they would have let it happen, but they were letting it happen. I listened to almost an amateur show. It's on AM 1130 here in Minnesota, and it's called Minnesota Beercast. Just a couple guys just like me that are looking at current events and testing out good beers. Now, I like current events and good beers, not necessarily in that order, but usually in that order. And I listen to it occasionally. I'll just have it on in the background. And they caught wind of this show and got witnesses to call in and interviewed them. And I'm going to leave that on this video that I'm putting up for you. It's another 30 minutes. It's really good listening. You tell me. It just seemed like it was wide open for these guys to do whatever they wanted. But nevertheless, you wrap the whole story up. It's infuriating that this is happening. You know, one of Obama's campaign promises that he really came through on is he said he was going to even up America with the world. And in my lifetime, I've never seen this happen before, ever. I mean, this looks third world to me, where you got people showing up, physically assaulting other people and trying to intimidate them just for who they're voting for. I mean, how this ain't going to work. I'm going to tell you, not in America. It's not going to work. It's going to get bloody. And in Minneapolis, St. Paul, it's your typical liberal run city. You know, you've got a big voting block, basically, of welfare recipients. You know, it's the government plantation and liberals and immigrants. That's what the Democrats are going after now. They want immigrants to come in. If they're going to change America, you need non-Americans. And so that's what they're bringing in to kind of get more numbers so they can get voted in. And that's how they control the cities, basically, just with those two elements. But anyway, before I keep going on this, because I'm aggravated, I'm going to put on this radio broadcast and leave it with you. You tell me what you think.
So Friday night, GOP nominee, presidential nominee Donald Trump came to town.
Lay it on
fundraiser.
Me. I was up north. Lay it on me. I wasn't here for the whole episode.
Came in town for a fundraiser, which, of course, as Trump is wont to do, attracted some protesters.
No, that doesn't happen.
Right.
No.
Right. We're going to talk to a few people who were attending the event, who were there as attendees, as donors, there to see Mr. Trump speak. We'll start with Carol Stevenson from CD1. Good morning, Carol.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm great.
Thank you for taking some time this morning and joining us. Now, you were at the event. You attended the event. Give us your starting from when you arrived. Tell us what it was like, what the scene was like, and how it was getting into the event.
Getting into the event wasn't too bad. It was tense. It was loud. I've been involved in politics for 30 years. I'm used to protesters and fully support peaceful protests.
Sure.
But I was a little bit alarmed at how close the protesters were able to be to those coming in and out of the convention center. But I did not feel threatened going into the event.
Okay. I've heard from other people, and I believe one of the people we'll talk to in a little bit maybe got there a little bit later and actually did have some trouble, had to sort of go through a gauntlet of violent protesters to get into the event. But I'm glad to hear that you didn't have that experience. Now,
well, going in, coming out is another story.
Yeah,
right.
But this was a closed event. This is a fundraiser closed event. That this is not a public event, right? That this is something that the Trump campaign was putting together that was for fundraisers, and frankly, I was out of town myself. But this wasn't a public rally, right?
That's correct. It was a private fundraiser.
Okay.
Now, as the event was wrapping up, and you were, everybody was getting ready to leave, what was that scene like? Just starting from inside the convention center, I'm sure that you were alerted to the fact that things had gotten a little unruly outside.
Yes, we were. We were told that not to go out a certain set of doors because the protesters were there, to use alternate doors. So we did. I was with another couple going out. And we looked out, first of all, noticed that it was raining. And thinking about that, just kind of, I had an autographed Trump campaign sign, and I did not want that getting wet.
Sure.
So I wrapped my sweater in that, so it was not visible as I came out. So when we came
That's
out...
That's probably smart.
Pardon me?
I said that's probably smart.
Yeah. As we came out onto the sidewalk, there weren't any protesters, but then immediately they came. We were ambushed, I would say. They came running at us. I was grabbed, and in the... on the arm. These were women that were wearing bandanas over their noses and mouths, so you could not clearly see who they were, screaming obscenities at us.
Where were the police?
There were no police. There were no police.
So you were directed to a certain set of doors, presumably to try to avoid the protesters.
Yes.
Protesters became aware that these were the doors you were leaving from and basically mobbed the group that was leaving, and there weren't any police in that immediate area to try to protect you guys.
That's correct.
And you were physically grabbed.
Yes.
Were you? I mean, I've heard reports of people being spat upon, of people being assaulted. How bad did it get?
Surely, it happened really fast. And while I've heard reports of those things that you just mentioned, I didn't personally see that because I was busy with my own self-preservation.
Right.
So I was able to I screamed, and then they backed away a little bit and mocked me for screaming as they were calling me white supremacist and
oh my goodness,
other names that I can't say on the radio.
So they rushed you, ambushed you, mobbed you, grabbed you. You screamed, and this they felt like was worth mocking. What did they expect you to do?
Right. So in this altercation wherein I was able to wrestle myself away, then they saw my Trump sign and came back at me to get the Trump sign and rip it out of my arms. And that wasn't going to happen. So I run really fast.
Sure.
And I ran across the street.
What time was this at? Was it like 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night?
No, not that late. It was 9:30 perhaps.
Okay.
So you were, you were assaulted. I mean, that's being grabbed by people that are mobbing around you. That's assault and attempted robbery. So they attempted to steal from you.
Yes.
And did you report any of this to the police?
No.
No. Didn't feel like it was worth it.
Well, we just wanted to get out of there.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Did the police show up at the end? I mean, were they just non-existent the whole time this incident happened?
Again, it happened really fast, and so to me, I did not see any police presence.
Wow!
When it was happening to me.
Once you got out of that immediate area, did you have any trouble, getting in your car, getting into the area?
No, we were actually parked, maybe 4 blocks away, and actually, once we crossed the street from the convention center, they did not pursue us.
Okay, well, good. Carol Stevenson, thanks for taking some time and telling us your story. We've got a few other people that were at the event as well. I want to make sure we have enough time to get to everybody. Appreciate it, Carol. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go to Cynthia. Cynthia, good morning.
Good morning.
You were also at the Trump rally on Friday night, I understand, or Trump fundraiser, I should say?
I was.
And tell me about your experience, starting from when you arrived.
Well, I saw the protesters right away, and I, too, was kind of taken back with how they were right on the door, the only door that they were allowing us in. And the driver that had given me a ride there wouldn't drop me off at the door. He pulled back about a half a block and said, I'm going to let you out here. And
you couldn't even get all the way up to the event, huh?
No, he wouldn't drop me off there. I think he was concerned. He said, I'm going to leave you here. And I got nervous, and I was alone. The gentleman I was meeting was already there. And as I started to approach the doors, I ran into what I thought was a police officer, and I said, would you mind escorting me through this group so I can get in? And he said, no, they'll accost me. You're on your own.
Really?
Yeah.
And that was a police officer that you had that conversation with?
I believe it was a police officer.
In uniform?
And I was about, I want to say maybe 200-300 steps from the door. I mean, I was far enough back that the crowd didn't even realize I was coming. But, of course, as I approached, they started to pay closer attention. And then as I started to get into the crowd, I just kept my mouth shut.
Mm-hmm.
I was surrounded.
Mm-hmm.
They put a megaphone to my ear, and a woman screamed in my ear, and I literally could not move. And it wasn't until one of the security guards inside the building came out to help me get in. Otherwise, they weren't going to let me in.
Were they blocking traffic at all, or was this just on the sidewalk area?
No, they were on the sidewalk in front of the door. I mean, you could not get to the door unless you went through that crowd, because I was told that was the only door I was allowed to go into.
Because of a security screening, you had to go through a you had to go through a screener to get into the event.
Right.
So only one set of doors. They were physically blocking the door, trying to prevent people from getting in, and no assistance, no help from police at all.
No.
Just the event
I was
security.
really rattled. It was quite intimidating.
Sure.
I kept thinking, if I open my mouth, I'm going to be in big trouble here. So I just kept my mouth quiet, and I just kept trying to get to that door.
Now, as the event was wrapping up at the end of the evening, tell me about that experience as people were planning on leaving.
Well, we were getting ready to leave, and we were told that it was better to wait because there were some issues going on outside. So we probably waited about a half hour. And when we walked back out of the ballroom doors, it looked like it was pretty quiet. I happened at that point, then I was with three gentlemen, and so I felt a lot more comfortable, and I didn't see anything as we walked out, but all of a sudden the guys got really serious, and we saw some sort of a tussle in front of us, and that was the gentleman who had had his cell phone stolen. So we kind of watched that from a distance, and then as we approached that same corner, those same women came up and started getting aggressive with us and spitting on the guys. And we just, didn't say anything and just kept going. I mean, we just completely ignored them and got across the street as quickly as we could, and we went into the hotel that was right across the street from the convention center.
Did you see any police at that point in time, or are there any security other than...
I did not see any police. I did as we were crossing the street, and obviously we were trying to go quickly. I heard someone go up to the women and say, "That's enough." But like I said, I mean, our goal was to get out of there. I could tell. I was with three men, and they were not happy about being on that corner. So I thought, well, if they're not comfortable, I'm certainly not comfortable. And I was grateful that I was with three of them instead of by myself, as I was when I was walking in.
So did you feel just like it was a completely unsafe environment? I mean, I was
really upset, and I'm upset right now talking about it.
I can tell.
I know, and it just, I've never felt like that in my cities before, ever.
And that's what really bothers me about this is a political event. This is a political fundraiser. Anybody should be able to go and express their support for a political candidate that's running for office, a legitimate political candidate, a nominee of one of our two major parties, without having to go through this gauntlet of violence, without any sort of assistance or any sort of protection, and feel as unsafe as it sounds like you felt, and Carol, who was on before you, and we've even got more people that are on the line that are going to share their stories as well. This is unacceptable, and should be considered unacceptable in this country. That at a political fundraiser, a political event, you can't go and express your support without feeling threatened, without feeling unsafe.
I was always under the impression, and the guys even commented about this, why did they leave those protesters? And I'm not going to call them protesters. They were thugs. They were not protesting. They were in your face, aggressively trying to intimidate and terrorize you. It was ridiculous. But why did they let them stand right in front of that door? You could not get into that event unless you went through that crowd.
I'm really disappointed in the response from Minneapolis police in their failure to make that more of a secure environment.
I don't want to criticize the police because I feel so bad about what's going on in this country when it comes to the tug-of-war between the police and people that feel they're being victimized by them. I think these guys are good, hardworking guys. I just think they don't know what to do anymore. They're damned if they do and damned if they don't.
Well, look, if the police that were at this event had been told to make sure that people can get into this event safely, I believe they would have. That's what police do. So if they weren't doing that, I can only presume that they were told to back off.
I just know all day on Saturday I said to myself, this is not my city. I agree with you. We should be able to attend private events at our leisure and not feel threatened in the middle of downtown Minneapolis. It was 6 o'clock in the evening, and no, it was not a very comfortable situation at all, and I was really ashamed for my city and for those people there. I mean, they are so misguided. They have no idea who they were yelling and spitting and being aggressive with. We're all human beings. It's really sad.
Did you witness anybody being assaulted or spat upon or anything like that?
Well, I saw the tussle in front of us when we went to leave, but we weren't paying attention to exactly what had happened. But then, of course, we encountered that same group of people moments later in the hotel, and that was the gentleman who had the cell phone stolen. Right. So, I mean, somebody said that they didn't know that had happened because of the event, but in my mind it did, because it was those same group of girls that were bothering that group in front of us that came up and approached us and started spitting on us.
Cynthia, thank you for sharing your story with us this morning. I appreciate you taking some time out. We are up against a break. I've got a couple more people that were at the event that I want to speak to as well, and we're going to continue this conversation on the other side. That's Senator Dave Osmek. I'm Andrew Lee. If you were at the event, if you've got thoughts, opinions, want to join in this conversation, please feel free to call in 651-989-5855.
If you're not following the Morning Crew on Twitter, what are you doing? Find all the links on TwinCitiesNewsTalk.com.
Welcome back to the show. Friday night, Donald Trump comes to Minneapolis for a private fundraiser.
Private.
Gets met with, according to local media, some unruly protesters. It wasn't unruly. It was downright violent. Mm-hmm. People were assaulted, people were robbed, people were harmed, and no arrests were made. This is the environment in Minneapolis right now. Is you can as long as you're opposed to the right politician, as long as you're opposed to the acceptable political action, you can get away with assault, robbery, and violent acts, and you will not be arrested.
But we've got a media that's going to be hounding them, afflicting the comfortable, comforting the afflicted, right? They're going to... Okay, never mind.
So I've managed to make contact with a handful of people that were at the event, and they were nice enough to come on and share their story. We talked with Carol, we talked with Cynthia in the last segment. They explained what they went through. Joining us now is Henry. Good morning, Henry.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm well. Just excited to get my story across.
Yeah, we talked a little bit over the weekend. We talked a little bit yesterday, and you had one of the worst stories of the people that I interacted with. Mm-hmm. Talk about again. Let's start at the beginning when you arrived at the event and tried to make your way into the event. What was it like?
Well, I arrived around 6:50, and Black Lives Matter and all of them were marching down Grant. And I was able to turn and get into the parking lot before they blocked me off. By the time I got out, they were already at the front doors. I'd say at least 200 people, maybe even greater.
And they were marching in the street, so they were stopping traffic, which is illegal. They were in the street. They were not on the sidewalk, right?
Yes. When I first approached the convention center, they were marching northbound. Down Grant.
Blocking traffic.
The police actually had the entry to the convention center blocked off with squad cars. So when I got out, I came to the convention center, and I came to the west doors, and they were locked, and they said, you got to go to the main entrance. I said, and there was an officer that I spoke to. I said, so we got to go through that crowd? And he goes, yeah. He said, good luck. Then a joke.
wait, that was an officer?
Yes.
Said, good luck.
So I proceeded to the doors, and I saw that they had them locked.
Could he have not escorted you?
No.
I mean, could the police have not tried to clear a path and try to make sure that you could at least get into the event safely?
That's correct.
That's unbelievable.
Yep. So I walked with my chest high, walked through everybody. By the time I got about 10 feet away from the door, that's when they realized that I was a Trump supporter, and they just started hounding me, pushing me through the crowd. And then there was 2 African-American women that had megaphones, and they were just screaming in my ear, "Donald Trump, KKK." So I knocked on the doors to get in, and as I was waiting, I just had to tell them that you aren't informed. You should watch the movie Hillary's America, and that'll keep you informed about the KKK.
Well, I'm sure that went over well.
Yeah, it was invigorating, more or less to say. But then I was let in and enjoyed the evening until what happened at the end of the event.
So you got in okay. I mean, you had to walk through a gauntlet of harassment.
Correct.
to get into the event, even after interacting with a police officer who just basically wished you luck.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so disappointing. How hard would it have been for a few police officers to say, "Hey guys, clear path. Let's let them get in there. You can stand there, you can yell whatever you want to yell, but at least give them room to get through." And the fact that they just said, "Good luck, and hopefully you won't get robbed or assaulted."
So the officers were standing over to near but not in the area, and how many officers were there? Were there a dozen or were there 5?
At the west door, there was 3 inside, and there's a couple that came out. And as I was walking, they were kind of walking into the street. There was an officer in a white shirt uniform, and then all the rest had the Minneapolis badge, blue shirts. But I would say in the facility, there was probably 5 or 6 easily. So I just figured, well, they thought I was a man, I'd be okay. I don't know. So I didn't really think that much of it. I just thought, this comes with the territory from what I've seen every place else that's happened.
We're talking to Henry, who was at the Trump fundraiser in Minneapolis on Friday night. So as the event's wrapping up and everybody's getting ready to leave, talk to us about that experience. What did you hear about what was going on outside? Were you given any instructions?
Well, I was enjoying myself speaking with other Trump supporters, and word was coming in that we couldn't leave. And I didn't really think much of it, but then I started looking at the faces on people, and I knew that this was serious. There was 4 other women that were all there alone, all over the age of 50, and we went to the front main entrance to walk out, and it literally looked almost like the movie The Purge. These guys were opening up the doors, trying to get in. They were all masked. I told the ladies, I said, "Don't worry." I said, "We will stay together. Just walk with me." I must commend the convention center security. They did way more than the police did.
And you're not the first person that's expressed that to me. In conversations I had with a couple people yesterday, I heard from folks who said that event security was more helpful than Minneapolis police.
Very much so. But this gentleman escorted us to the west entrance, what I originally tried to get in when I came earlier that day. And I said, okay, here we go. We really did not expect, even myself, I figured, here's, 4 women, they're not going to be touched if they're supposed to be peaceful protesters, the whole rules.
Sure.
But then again, you're looking at people that have all masks on, and your inklings right away would be, gee, if they have masks on, do they really have the attitude of being peaceful? And afraid not. The second we walked out the door, we had our souvenirs, our signs. They grabbed them, ripped them up, threw them in our face. They started spitting at us. There's one.
So they took property. They took things out of your hands. They took your property, destroyed it, and threw it back at you.
Yep.
That, I believe, I'm not a law enforcement expert, but I believe that's an arrestable offense.
It could be.
And
no
I
arrests.
worked hard for. That was a souvenir that, to me, was priceless. And there it goes. But besides that, all of a sudden, after this, there's a guy in a green lime jacket. If you look in all the videos, he's the disruptor in everything. There's another kid that was with him with a green backpack. At this time, you see him during the day, but now they have masks on in the evening. I turn around, I see one of the women I'm with being pushed and shoved by this black girl. She's spitting on him. And then all of a sudden, this guy spray paints another woman from the top of her head down her back.
That's assault.
What? That's assault.
That's assault.
Yep.
Completely. And and the whole thing was, is that we were surrounded by police. They were like in a circle, kind of like, you know, just going with the flow with it. So
did you speak to any police officers at this point?
I had one woman at one arm, and we just all tried to stay tight together. As we were stepping off the curb, the guy in the lime green jacket grabs my name tag and throws it on the ground and starts stepping on it. And that's when I said, you know what? No one steps on my name. I said, I'm not leaving here without my name tag. So I bent down to pick it up, and they started stepping on my hand, spitting on me, pushing me. They pushed me good enough to hyperextend my knee. Wow. And, you know, it felt like 20 seconds, but it's probably only 10 seconds. But I said out loud, I said, I'm not leaving here without my name tag. And then I heard an officer in the background say, let them pick it up. And as soon as he said that, they just released, like they just backed up. So it felt like it was coordinated. It was so bizarre.
That is bizarre. I mean, you know, obviously these people weren't in fear of being arrested.
No,
there was no fear.
It was like almost like they're in cahoots. But anyways, we get across the street, and just like the ladies before, once you got across the street, they didn't cross over there. So I run into a bicycle officer. And I said to him, I go, these aren't peaceful protesters. Did you see what happened? Are you going to arrest them? And he goes, don't you think I want to? And I go, I don't know. He goes, our hands are tied. And I was like, oh, my gosh.
There you go.
He said that.
There you go.
So we get into the parking facility. We were checking each other out. I couldn't believe, and I felt so bad for the woman that got spray painted. But it was just like, I mean, we didn't feel safe. And everything happened so fast. But even as we were walking into the parking facility, we heard glass breaking. Mm-hmm. Everything. I was like, oh, there goes the doors. There goes the glass. That should be something for them to arrest or apprehend them for. And as you said, there was no arrest.
Yeah. Well, we heard from Scott Peters from Minnesota News Network. No arrests have been reported.
Yeah.
Reportedly been made due to with all these activities. And if you go to the Twin Cities News Talk Facebook page, you can see an article that I posted yesterday. It's got 3 or 4 videos embedded into it where you can see outright assaults happening. You can see people being punched.
It's horrible.
You can see people being...
When that elderly man got punched, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
What about that guy with the mohawk? That should be aired all across America right now.
And then local media has done a very poor job of covering this event. I was really disappointed all weekend. Every story I saw downplayed the violence at these protests. Pioneer Press headline just says you were just taunted, Henry. You were just taunted. That's all.
Yeah. No.
Your property was destroyed. It was taken from you. You were stolen from, and you were assaulted.
Yeah.
That's not taunting, and that shouldn't be acceptable at a political fundraiser, at a political event. This is your.
It shouldn't be acceptable to any tax-paying citizen.
Yeah. You should not feel unsafe in downtown Minneapolis, where there is a heavy and strong police presence, and yet you still felt unsafe, and you still got attacked, and you still got stolen from, and the people that did this, the people that perpetrated these assaults and these crimes, they just got to go home. They probably feel pretty proud of themselves.
They get to be smug about it.
Yeah.
Now, here's the narrative which happened after that. So I went down to the 1st Precinct to file a report on Saturday. And the officer at that time, and, you know, just like they said before, too, I feel like their hands are tied. They're caught between a rock and a hard place. And what he said was, you know what, we were told to stand down. We were told not to do anything. And he goes, that came straight from the top. And I was like, really? Oh, my gosh.
Now, you heard that from a police officer.
Yep.
Now, of course,
the police officer told me that directly.
Yeah, and we're not going to be able to get any.
It's like they're even scared. They look around a little bit, make sure nobody else is listening.
Yeah. We're not going to get any confirmation on that. In fact, when we talked to Scott from MNN earlier, he said that the spokesperson said there was no order given. But, of course, that's what they're going to say.
Yeah.
Of course, that's what they're going to say.
Fox News was reporting on it last night, and they said that They didn't order any of that.
And I've known enough police officers to know that they don't want to see people getting assaulted and harassed and protested. And if they had the ability to make sure that you could get in and out of this event in a more safe fashion, they would have. That's what police officers do. That's why they join the force.
Exactly.
So when I hear story after story after story of no assistance from police, I can only presume, I can only assume that that is because that's the orders that they were given.
Exactly.
Police officers do not want to see that happen to just average citizens. It's just that's not how they operate. That's not how their minds function.
And you can even imagine our soldiers that are fighting overseas. Some of these same things are happening to them. They want to win, but then their hands are being held by political correctness or whatever. I don't know. But here's the thing, too. So I brought another person as a witness yesterday down to the precinct to add to my report. I also brought them pictures of the guy in the lime green jacket and the spray painting guy. I tried to give it to him, and he goes, oh, no, just hold on to this. He was maybe the investigator. If they investigate, you can give it to them.
Don't hold your breath on that.
So, he was telling us about how the precinct used to be a fire station, and I was looking at the pictures, and another officer came in, and, they were talking, and I was eavesdropping a little bit, and he goes, what was that all about? And he goes, well, the convention center fundraiser. And he goes, we were told that that's a dead issue, that we're not wasting any time on that.
Really?
And I turned around, and that's exactly what I said. Really?
Yeah.
And again, they said, that's from the top. And so I asked myself, who is the top? Is it Hartel? Is it the mayor? Who is it? Because it's really sad. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Yeah, the political leadership in Minneapolis apparently want to have an environment where if you support the wrong candidate, if you support a candidate they don't approve of, then you are fair game. You're fair game for violence. You're fair game for assault. You're fair game for robbery. And there will be no accountability and there will be no arrests. And that is really sad.
It is really sad. And it's really sad that they are, those people, whoever those, thugs are, I feel sorry for them because they are uninformed,
Sure.
So it's just
they've been told, and they've been led to believe that opposing Donald Trump is the equivalent of opposing the next Hitler. So they in their minds they feel completely justified in doing this sort of thing. They're trying to stop the next Hitler by all means.
Yeah, exactly.
By assaulting just normal, average Minnesotans who want to go show some support for their candidate of choice.
Well, this is just another example of why conservative groups should not go to Minneapolis and have events, because business leaders downtown need to start reacting and telling Bicycle Betsy Hodges that if we don't have security, if we don't have support from the police to have our events downtown, we're going to take them someplace else, and that's going to hit them in the pocketbook, and maybe they'll pay attention then.
It'll be an economic. It will hit them. There will be a recourse from this.
Yeah, but they won't do it until you actually force the issue. And I went on my rant before about business leaders around around the metropolitan area, and until we start to push back through the pocketbook means, we're never going to get any place.
Henry, thanks for sharing your story. I really appreciate you taking some time this morning. I'm sorry you had to go through that Friday night.
Everything happens for a reason, and I'm thankful and grateful for what you guys are doing, and thank you for allowing me to speak my voice.
Yeah, and real quick, just one more quick thing. It doesn't sound like this would be the case for you. You went through that, but I can only imagine how many people that maybe did go out and show their support Friday night would be hesitant to in the future if another candidate came along that was drawing these same sort of protests. Maybe they, perhaps the next time they might be less inclined to go support that candidate because they don't want to have to go through that violence. They don't want to have to get assaulted again. They don't want to have to get robbed again. Exactly. And that's the point. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to scare you and bully you and intimidate you out of expressing your support for whatever candidate you choose. And nobody, I don't care which candidate you support. If this had happened at a Hillary Clinton event, I'd be saying the same thing. You should never have to undergo this sort of assault, this sort of intimidation, and these sort of bullying tactics simply because you support a particular particular candidate. That is un-American.
Yep.
And the leadership in Minneapolis should be embarrassed and ashamed of themselves, and they haven't said a word about it.
Not a word. And it's all their plan. It's all their plan. So it's not going to work. They don't intimidate me. I can't be bullied. I have Jesus Christ on my side. I'm not afraid of anything. So
thank you, Henry. I appreciate your call.
Anyway, thanks for listening. For whatever it's worth, I just want it to be known what's, from my little office here in Minnesota. I want people to know that this is happening. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to get bloody. One of these days, these guys are going to bump up against the wrong people. It's going to happen. And I don't know where that's going to lead. Maybe that's what they want. Maybe they want it to get bloody. But this shouldn't be happening. Not here. This isn't the way it works. Anyway, I'll talk to you later. Thanks for listening.